All right, so in this episode, I kind of want to go over just how I do my strategy of the UVXY. So my strategy is very, very simple as always. First off, always keep it simple. Come up with a theory, a thesis, hypothesis, test it out a little bit. See if it holds some ground, and then roll with it. Now, with the markets, I'm going to tell you guys something. When it comes to gambling, I am a gambling man. I love gambling. It gets me going. It gets me excited. It gets me hard. My nipples get hard as fuck when I gamble. I also like to gamble on the markets, but in a different way. In fact, the way I play, it's a high reward, low risk. So what I tell everybody is the asymmetric risk reward. You know what I mean? You want to make sure they're symmetrical, make sure they're aligned. See, well, hold on, I'm probably saying that kind of wrong. You want to make sure basically that the risk is very low, but the reward potential is very high. That's the goal. And there are ways to do this. So what I did was I came up with a strategy that implemented asymmetrical risk. And I don't really have the exact definition, but it's pretty much how I define it, at least, and how Warren Buffett and Tony Robbins defines it. Is high reward, low risk. A lot of people think high risk, high reward, but honestly, you can still get high rewards by using low risk strategies. Now, I will admit, the way I played this strategy to play the UVXY was kind of a little bit risky. It required things to go right at first. At least, if they didn't go right at first, it would take longer to get the result. So, luckily, it didn't. So what I did was I went on I had a premise. I have a premise. I had a thought that if the UVXY, it'll go down. It's a decaying product naturally, so that's why it's a great idea to bet against the UVXY because it is a decaying product. However, the premiums for the put contracts are naturally higher in cost, so you must always keep this in mind. Another thing I would like to let everybody know is when you are playing this risky game, you really should keep, I don't know, it's tough to, I'm trying to describe what I want to say in a few different ways. Keep in mind that when you use put options, you do have to buy quite a few. And you do have to make sure that they're at least kind of close to the current share price when you buy them, right? Another thing is you're going to have to buy some UVXY shares as well, just in case you're wrong about the decay of the UVXY. Wow, I can't even speak. Just in case you are wrong somehow about the UVXY continuing decay, because the reason the UVXY continues to decay is mainly due to the S&P 500 moving up and up and up and up and up, and it never goes down. Here is the trick. Here is my thesis. The market will eventually correct very hard. Oh, the hardest way you're ever going to imagine. And it's going to be scary. A lot of people are going to, I don't know, a lot of people could get fucked. This is a quick thing. But when the S&P 500 takes a nosedive, which I have a great feeling there's going to be a nosedive at some point, because once the Fed prints less money, and I tell everybody this every fucking time, once they make money more expensive to borrow, they're going to print less of it, and a lot of companies are going to pull back. And when companies pull back, earnings don't look as sexy. A lot of things that don't look very sexy. There eventually will be a pullback in stocks. People will start selling off in a panic. And that's where I come in. I constantly buy the UVXY, the shares, very slowly. Now, the secret to my sauce is very, very simple. I use no commission trading apps to make this work. That was the thesis behind it. The thesis was I could continue buying on the dip lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower as it just continued to go down, take that nosedive, right? And I'll just buy one share at a time, another share here, another share there, blah, blah, blah. While that happens, while it continues to decay and nosedive, the UVXY, I should say, not the S&P 500. Just remember, if the UVXY is going down, the S&P is going great. If the UVXY is going up, clearly the S&P is going down. It's an inverse. Basically, the UVXY does the inverse of whatever the S&P 500 is currently doing. So this is one of the major keys you have to always know in all these scenarios. Dropping the clipboard. Okay. All right. I'm back. So, okay, in a lot of these scenarios, you have to consider a couple things. All these situations get really tricky, right? You got the variables you have to keep in mind, and I always like to look at these different variables. Anyway, so what you have to realize is the whole advantage to doing this, to me being able to buy one share at a time of the dip of the UVXY, is simply because we're now able to do no commission trading. This is kind of a hack. So I thought about it, and my whole premise was, how can I play the S&P 500 like a hedge fund without having to put out a shit ton of money all in one setting, right? And I keep a lot of cash in reserve to make this work. And not paying a commission fee. I don't even care if my order, by the way, payment for order flow, I don't give a shit. Because if you're playing both sides, it doesn't matter what direction the market goes in. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop it from going up. Well, I mean, everybody's getting in and everybody's getting out. Depends on the day. So, you play the market one way or another and things just get interesting. The S&P 500's been on a collision course. Well, I think it's on a collision course. Quite frankly. This is why I continue to stack up on the UVXY as a squirrel would stack up on nuts, right? So think of my UVXY shares that I continually buy, stocking up on nuts, right, for the winter, right? Because it's going to be a cold winter, It's going to be a cold, this is all metaphor, by the way, all metaphor analogy shit. So think of me as a squirrel, right? And think of the UVXY shares as the nuts, right? So I'm constantly racking up nuts. I'm not eating these nuts yet. None of these nuts are being eaten. And I'm slowly hoarding them, right? But at the same time, I'm also betting. So it's a tricky analogy. I'm trying to make this as visual as possible. So the nuts are the stocks, right, of the UVXY, the shares of the UVXY that I purchased. Now, the put options, what would they represent? Well, the put options would represent, and this is a tough one. I'm always terrible with metaphors and analogies, but I want to make my strategy more visual and make more sense. So, okay, so think of the put options as, here's a good analogy, the summertime, right? Summer and the springtime, right? Well, you don't really, you hoard up on the nuts, right? Just in case when winter happens, you have all the nuts to eat in the world, right? While you're chilling out in your tree. And remember, in this metaphor and analogy, I'm still the squirrel, right? You got to think of me as a squirrel here. It's such a strange analogy, but it's starting to work. But you have to think of the put options as the seasons, right? Winter, fall, summer, spring, blah, blah, blah. So right now, if we were to compare the market in this scenario, the market is currently in summertime. Everything's going great. Sun's out. Food is everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. Food is everywhere. Yay. Temperatures are great. It's living conditions that we can all manage as a squirrel, right? So what happens when winter comes? Ooh, well, I got all those nuts. Those nuts are an insurance policy for when winter comes. And that's the way you should look at the UVXY stocks that you're slowly gathering like nuts that a squirrel would gather, right? So I know that was probably one of the most colorful analogies of all time and probably not one of the best, but I can't think of any other way to visually make this make sense other than I'm playing both sides of the coin, right? I have tons of put options on the UVXY, which since it's a decaying product, it'll likely continue to go down. And those put options continue to raise in value. And rapidly, by the way, that I might add. Put options raise in value so fucking rapidly, it's almost scary. But now you're probably wondering, well, what about these fucking shares that you keep buying, dude? What do these represent? Well, this is an insurance policy. Remember, in that scenario with the squirrel, the nuts are there to be hoarded up in the tree, so that way when winter comes, the squirrel doesn't have to go out into the fucking wilderness and have to deal with the terrible weather conditions. They could stay in the tree and eat its nuts and not have to fend for food, you know? So that's what I'm trying to get at, is that the UVXY stock are the nuts, the insurance policy that winter will eventually come, but I will be so prepared and so good, it won't matter. Just like the squirrel collects his nuts. But while things are good, though, the squirrel collects more nuts. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at? The squirrel keeps collecting the nuts as everything looks great. Collect the nuts. I'm collecting more UVXY stock like the squirrel collects the nuts. Slowly, but I get it. Oh, that was a weird ass analogy. That was a fun analogy, though. I really very colorful imagery. I've never explained it like that before, and I think maybe it makes more sense. I think I do need to put out a diagram sometime, but my strategy's so fucking simple, man. It's like it takes time to get it to work because you're constantly buying more of the UVXY as it goes down, right? Slowly, like one share at a time. Like let's say it's $18 a share, buy one share today, $17 a share, buy another share tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. You keep stacking up and you're lowering your average cost, which is great, but you're also protecting your put options, right? So you're protecting both sides. The put options protect the stocks that the stocks that you're buying for the UVXY, and the stocks protect your put options just in case, because you don't know what direction the market's going to go. So if you don't know, play both sides, and it'll balance itself out in a way that works over time. I tell everybody this takes 3 to 4 months to successfully set up because you got to keep buying more UVXY in the dip slowly. Here's the thing, the S&P 500 will continue to go up, and I'll tell you why. Inflation. More money printing is just going to make the S&P 500 continue to go up. And honestly, my put options for the UVXY will continue to go up in value because it's just going to keep going down and decaying as a product. But just in case a market crash happens, remember those UVXY stock, those will go up in value like crazy, actually. If a market crash happens, like that would be insane. I'd make a lot of dough off of a market crash for sure. But since market crashes may not be in the horizon for a couple of years, I'm still going to hold on to the UVXY because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a mind reader. I wish I could say I was, but I'm not. I just don't know what's on the horizon for the markets. So. And nobody does. And that's the difference between me and everybody else. I know for a fact I can't foresee the market. I just can't. And honestly, anybody who says they do, okay, there's two possibilities. They really are psychic, and that's incredible. Or they're 99% chance they're a bullshit artist. Anybody who tells you they can predict the market is a fool. Look, when they get it right, they look like a golden god, right? They look like... And look, I like to say the market's going to continue to go up because of inflation, but I could be wrong. Market's bipolar. You know, people get in and they get out in weird times. People panic. Everybody, when the market panic sells, when everybody's panic selling, that's when I buy. When everybody's buying, that's when I sell. Like, that's just the way I roll. And it's kind of the way I always will. And I do buy and hold for the most part on different brokerage accounts. I'll find different assets that I just want to buy and hold and just keep them, nuzzle them, and just take home the dividend. That's a different strategy for a different time. Like I said, I have multiple brokerage accounts, so I can implement multiple strategies across different things. And I think it's a healthy balance. Probably one of the healthiest things you could do with your money is to separate it. Separate your money, keep it in different spots, because if you don't separate your money, I just think it's a bad idea to keep all your money in one place. Straight up. Diversify if you have to. I don't care. Straight up, man. All right, I can continue talking on and on and on about all this bullshit, but I want to thank you guys for taking the time to view this episode. Do me a favor, have sex with the like button, have sex with the subscribe button, and also have sex with the dislike button if it tickles your fancy. But look, I just want to make sure everybody's right in the head on this one. Really thinking about this. So, okay, thank you guys once again. I will save the craziness for the next episode. I need to take a break. I've been doing this for about like 30-40 minutes, making episode after episode. Just need to take a break. But thank you guys. See you guys on the next episode.